Al Capone, one of the most infamous gangsters in American history, rose to prominence during the Prohibition era in the United States. Born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1899, Capone moved to Chicago in his 20s, where he quickly climbed the ranks of the city's criminal underworld. By the late 1920s, he had become the boss of the Chicago Outfit, a criminal organization involved in illegal activities such as bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution. Capone's reign was marked by notorious violence and the corruption of public officials, with the 1929 St. Valentine's Day Massacre standing out as one of the most brutal examples of mob violence under his command. Despite his criminal empire, Capone evaded conviction for most of his crimes until 1931, when he was finally tried and convicted of tax evasion. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison, serving part of his term in Alcatraz.
Al Capone, notorious for his role as a gangster in Prohibition-era America, has a story that encapsulates the rise and fall of organized crime in the early 20th century. Here are the detailed facets of his life and criminal career. Born on January 17, 1899, in Brooklyn, New York, Alphonse Gabriel Capone was the son of Italian immigrants. His early life in a rough neighborhood set the stage for his later criminal activities. Moving to Chicago in the early 1920s, Capone joined the James Street Boys gang, eventually working for Johnny Torrio's criminal syndicate. He rose to prominence in the Chicago Outfit, taking over from Torrio in 1925. Capone's empire in Chicago encompassed illegal brewing, distilling, and distribution of alcohol, alongside gambling, prostitution, and racketeering. He cultivated a public image as a modern-day Robin Hood, while ruthlessly eliminating rivals. One of the most notorious events linked to Capone was the 1929 massacre, where 7 members of a rival gang were executed, escalating gang warfare in Chicago. Although widely attributed to Capone, he was never formally charged for the massacre. Despite his myriad crimes, it was tax evasion that led to Capone's downfall. In 1931, he was convicted and sentenced to 11 years in prison, serving time at Atlanta U.S. Penitentiary in Alcatraz. Capone's health deteriorated in prison, exacerbated by syphilis contracted in his youth. Released on parole in 1939 due to his declining health, he spent his last years in Miami, Florida, where he died on January 25, 1947. Al Capone's life has been immortalized in numerous books, films, and TV shows, symbolizing the era of organized crime in America. His story reflects the complexities of law enforcement and crime during Prohibition, illustrating both the glamorization and the brutal reality of the gangster lifestyle.
Charitable public image. Despite his notorious criminal activities, Capone cultivated a public persona as a modern-day Robin Hood. He was known for his charitable acts, like opening soup kitchens during the Great Depression, which contrasted sharply with his ruthless criminal conduct. Tax evasion conviction. It's ironic that Capone, responsible for numerous violent crimes, was ultimately brought down by tax evasion. The government's strategy to convict him on tax charges, rather than his more overt criminal activities, highlights a unique approach in law enforcement history. Alcatraz tenure. Capone's time in Alcatraz, one of the most notorious prisons in U.S. history, is notable. Known for his manipulative and charismatic personality, Capone's influence waned in Alcatraz, where he was isolated and could not wield his usual power over others. Syphilitic decline. The decline in Capone's mental health due to untreated syphilis adds a tragic layer to his life story. Once a feared gangster, he spent his final years in a confused and disoriented state, a stark departure from his former cunning and sharp-minded persona.